Recording in progress.
So I think we can get started. There might be a few more people coming in, but I think it's 8:02 right now, so we can like go ahead and get started. So first of all, to give an introduction about our speaker today, our speaker Leo, he led a team of 8 engineers at Amazon Web Services, and there he put storage virtualization for more than 200K EC2 instances. At Amazon Lab 126, Leo built the first generation of Kindle Fire and architected Fire OS for all Amazon devices. At Ericsson and Broadcom, he worked on their Linux kernel, embedded systems, and large-scale distributed systems. Leo holds a master's degree in computer science from Simon Fraser University and a bachelor degree from Zhejiang University. Leo has completed 8 full marathons and hiked the Grand Canyon R3, John Muir Trail, and to the entire Pacific Crest Trail. So now I'll give it to Leo.
Hi, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me share the screen. So thanks everyone for coming for the talk. So today I gonna give an introduction about the blockchain NFT. Let me share the screen. Can you see the screen now?
Yeah.
Okay. So today is just an introduction. So I'm trying to cover as much content as possible in terms of blockchain and NFT, but may not go deep into each topic. So first of all, what is a blockchain? So I think blockchain has been a buzzword for many years. So, but what is really the blockchain? So based on the name, we can say that the blockchain consists of a block and a chain. So block means blocks of data. So and the chain is chain of blocks. So that's why it's named blockchain. But actually, in another word, it's also called DLT, decentralized ledger technology. That's a more formal name of the blockchain technology. Blockchain is more generic for people to understand. So there are a few special features of blockchain technology. So one is called immutable, which means any data, once you return to the blockchain, it shouldn't be changed. That's immutable. And the second is open access. Open access means the blockchain here we're talking about is a public blockchain. So it's public, which means everyone would be able to get access to the data and participate into the blockchain. Transparency is identical to the open access. So transparency means all the data on chain, it should be viewable by everyone. But transparency doesn't mean there is no privacy. That's a different topic. Transparency means all the data you can see account and you can see the address, but you may not know who is behind the account and who is behind the address. But all the account, all the address, everything is transparent on the blockchain. Trackable is also another property of the blockchain. So all the transaction, everything happens on blockchain can be tracked from the very beginning, from the genesis to the current status. So standardization, also mentioned here, it's also critical to build application on blockchain technology because it's people follow the certain standard so that all the components can interact with each other. So those are the key properties of blockchain technology. So when I talk about the application later on, so I'm going to refer to those properties. You will see why it is important of the that's an important property of the blockchain. So a blockchain technology itself consists of many different subjects in computer science. So it's not just one single technology. It's a combination. It's a aggregation of different technology altogether. But first of all, most important subject used in the blockchain technology is called cryptography. Cryptography, there's a few important cryptography primitive used in the blockchain technology. It is called symmetric encryption and also hash function. So if you don't know those computer science subject, it's okay. So just remember those are the key subjects used in the blockchain technology. I may cover some detail later on. So and the blockchain is also use a distributed system. So distributed system, like we say, all the service and all the current like website, everything we use underneath there are distributed system technology being used. One key important distributed system subject here is called consensus. Of course, networking. So in the blockchain network, it's all P2P, it's peer-to-peer network. So that's why the P2P network is a key foundation technology in the blockchain technology. And the one last thing I mentioned is the economy. This is something like very different from traditional computer science subjects. So the economy, especially the token economy, is the foundation of any blockchain, foundation of any blockchain application. So we may not cover the detail here, but remember, it's not just the technology aggregation, it's also combined with the token economy. So that makes the blockchain technology so unique and useful right now. So the first part, I'm going to talk about the cryptography. So there are many terms here. So for cryptography, as the most commonly people understand cryptography, and it's called symmetric encryption, such as your login password. So you have a password, and the password can be used to encrypt your data. And then use the same password, you can decrypt your data. That's a symmetric encryption. So however, in the blockchain, the most commonly used cryptography primitive is called the asymmetric encryption. So in the asymmetric encryption, there are more than just one password. There are two components involved. One is called the private key, and another one is called the public key. So the public key, based on the name, you can say it's intended to be public. So to be public, so that people can use the public key to verify the message being encrypted by your private key. But you cannot disclose your private key. If people get your private key, basically people get access to your content. So, but the public key can be used, it make it public, can be used to verify the encrypted data in the private key. And also hash function. So I don't know how many of you heard of hash function. Hash function basically is you have a series of the input, and going through a hash function, we get a deterministic output using the hash function. Most of the hash function is a one-way hash function, which means from the input, you can get output, but from the output, you want to be able to guess what's the input, because any tiny change of the input will result in a totally different output. So that it's called a kind of like a one-way function. So those are the key primitive used in blockchain, but there are, of course, there are other advanced crypto primitives such as zero knowledge proof. Those are too much of an advanced topic, so we won't cover it here. So let's come to blockchain, the block. What is a block? A block, each block in blockchain. So I'm gonna just use a very like a simple example here. So each block, the block structure could be very different, in each blockchain. But here there's some common property of the block. Just gonna use a Bitcoin, for example, as an example here. Okay, so a block consists of list of the transaction. So so we haven't talked about the history of the blockchain, but you may already know that Bitcoin is the first blockchain technology application. So that a lot of new blockchain technology built on top of what Bitcoin has been built. So that's why here I mentioned here a block consists of a list of transaction. So under the all those transactions being organized in a data structure called a Merkle tree. And also each block consists of a block header. Block header contains the hash of the block, and in the block header it also contains other metadata such as the timestamp and the minor information. Those are the general structure of each block. So another important technology and an important computer science subject in blockchain called the consensus. So consensus, based on the name, you can say that it's like the network people reach agreement. That's a consensus. So there, in one of the first consensus protocol using blockchain technology is called the proof of work. You may already heard of it. So it's called the Nakamoto consensus. Nakamoto is the last name of the author of the Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto. That's why the name after him called the Nakamoto consensus. Proof of work. So in the blockchain network, there are many different nodes. So each node you can think of, people also call it a miner. So each node has to run certain hash function and to verify the block so that they can agree on the content of in each block, as I mentioned before. So to find those to agree on those blocks, so they need to run hash function. So that's why to do those hash functions, they need to use the brute force hash function, use a lot of electricity in order to find the agreement. That's why I call the proof of work. So each node actually did a lot of work. That's why I call it proof of work. So there are a newer generation of the blockchain technology. I call the proof of stake. Proof of stake is kind of like a voting system. So every node in the network, they can vote on a certain block to reach the consensus. But to vote on those blocks, you have to have a certain stake. Think about just like an election system. Everyone has one ballot. So you vote who is the president, who is the governor. So based on the vote, with you reaching majority, you can agree on the content of the blockchain. So of course, so the real algorithm itself is more complicated. It's called the most of the proof of stake blockchain. They use a computer science algorithm called PBFT, practical Byzantine fault tolerance algorithm. So each of the topic can be a long lecture on those, right? So I won't cover too much detail here, but just give you an overview of what's the entire topic about. Okay. Okay. So so after I talk about those critical computer science primitive and the subjects in blockchain technology, then let's come back to some of the history of the blockchain. So that's what most people get familiar with. So blockchain and the cryptocurrency. So Bitcoin is the first cryptocurrency and the first application of the blockchain technology. So it started in 2009, January 3rd. So Bitcoin itself, I would say, is the foundation of all the newer blockchain cryptocurrency, and it's very the design is elegant and actually simple and straightforward. So that's why most of the people study the blockchain or go study Bitcoin at first. So in 2015, there's another blockchain technology has been developed. It's called Ethereum. So Ethereum right now is the most popular, I would say, most popular blockchain to power all those applications. So when Ethereum was designed, so it's not built on top of nothing. So the founder of the Ethereum actually had a long history with the Bitcoin as well. And then when he was design Ethereum, of course, he borrowed the key idea from Bitcoin as well, such as proof of work, those consensus algorithm. And so after Ethereum, there are, I mean, you can say it's almost like 7 years ago. So after that, there are a lot of new blockchain has been developed. So here I'm talking about blockchain. I'm mostly talking about the infrastructure side. So I'm not talking about the application built on top of blockchain. Those are a different topic. There are many different applications. So later on we'll talk about NFT. NFT just one kind of application can be built using blockchain technology. So here we're talking about all those blockchain other infrastructure layer. So till today, there are more than like 12,000 different coins has been publicly tradable and issued on in the world. So you can see it's only like about 13 years. So the total market cap of the blockchain of all the cryptocurrency is close to is more than it's around $2 trillion in total. So it's still very early, but in the last few years, so the entire ecosystem has been developed very rapidly. So so from last year, they gained a lot of attraction from the entire industry and everyone. Okay, so come back to Bitcoin. As I mentioned, Bitcoin is the very first one, is the foundation, and those principles and those algorithms set in Bitcoin make the foundation for all the newer blockchain. And people mostly talk about cryptocurrency and blockchain about Bitcoin. So I think people may have a question about the Bitcoin, or where Bitcoin coming from. So why it's worth a lot of money right now? Okay, so the Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is as I mentioned earlier, right? So there are block. The blockchain consists of block. Each block, when a miner generates a block, basically when the network agree with the block, so which we call it a block has been mined. So there's one miner who mined the block will be rewarded with 50 Bitcoin for his contribution to the entire network. But that's from the very beginning. So 50 Bitcoin, that was a lot of money right now. But when the Bitcoin network started in 2009, it was almost nothing, right? So it's just a reward to the people who participate into the network. So every 210,000 block, there will be half of the reward for the block. So you can say so every block in the Bitcoin network is about 10 minutes. So times 210,000 block, it's all about 4 years. So almost like every 4 years, the reward from the miner for the miner will be halved. So right now, I think it's 50, 25, 12.5, 6, 1 to 5. I think right now it's about 6, 1 to 5, if I remember correctly. And Bitcoin will be generated for each block, which means every 10 minutes. So you can say in the entire Bitcoin network, there are many Bitcoin has been generated out of the network. So, but since it has the half algorithm built into the code, so going for longer term, almost every 4 years, the number of Bitcoin generated out of the network will be halved. So based on a rough calculation, till the year 2140, around 2140, So there will be no more Bitcoin generated out of the network. So that's why when people talk about Bitcoin, they, I don't know if you heard of that, there will be upper limit of how many Bitcoin will be generated in the entire lifetime, or total. It's close to 21 million Bitcoin will be generated. Right now, there's already 18 to 19 million of the Bitcoin has been generated in the network already. So so the upper limit is set by the algorithm, and the Bitcoin just rewarded to all the miners. So mining also right now in the entire world is a very profitable business as well. So in the United States, in Europe, it used to be in China. So there are a lot of mining farm have been built in order to mine those Bitcoin. As I mentioned, every block there are 6.125 Bitcoin being generated. Those are worth more than $200,000 every block, which means every 10 minutes, right? So those are a huge amount of asset put into the Bitcoin network. That makes Bitcoin the most valuable cryptocurrency in the world right now. I think it's close to 1 trillion market cap in total. So the Bitcoin is not someone, is not any institution created. As I said, it's just generated out of the code and rewarded to the miner who work together to secure the network. So in terms of the technology-wise, so since we're a computer science club, right? So I cover a little bit more about the technology side. So the blockchain, there's a blockchain trilemma. It's the name blockchain trilemma was first created by the co-founder of Ethereum, Vitalik. So I mentioned to design any blockchain infrastructure or network, there are three properties that you have to find the balance: decentralization, scalability, and performance. So it's hard to meet all those three properties when you design a blockchain network. That's why I call the blockchain trilemma. It's actually it's in line with in the distributed system. There's a CAP theorem. It's a very close to what the CAP theorem we're talking about: consistency, availability, and the partitioning. Okay, so if you're interested into the blockchain technology, so I recommend that there are two books can be read. So one called the Mastering Bitcoin, another called the Mastering Ethereum. Those covers a lot more content of the entire blockchain technology, like wallet, encryption, and also networking, and also smart contract programming, API. A lot of other topic in the blockchain technology. You can read those two books to get some overview of the blockchain. So next, so right now when people are talking about blockchain, there's also another term is being created recently called the Web 3.0. So what is Web 3.0 anyway? So Web 3.0 is something I think started last year when people are talking about what will be the next big thing for the internet. So when we talk about internet, we can say like 20 years ago. So like Web 1.0, 20, 30 years ago. Web 1.0, when the internet was initially started, there's only very few applications on internet, for example, like email or like web page. So most of cases you can only do like to read those content and to read the newspaper. So that's the Web 1.0 area. That's more than 20 years ago. So when we reach to Web 2.0, Web 2.0, I think there is some generic understanding of Web 2.0 is like user-generated content. So, for example, like most of the people right now use YouTube, Instagram, or Facebook. So or other services, right? So those are the Web 2.0 area technology. So the Web 2.0 to users perspective, it can enable user, you can read and also you can write, which write means you can create the content on the internet. And that's right now actually majority of the content on the internet are user generated content, including all those like video, photos, everything. That's Web 2.0. So then what's different in the Web 3.0? Okay, I forget to mention this, like a Web 3.0 concept was initially started by a famous investor in Silicon Valley called Chris Dixon. So I linked his Twitter over here. So he started this concept. So Web 3.0, in addition to read, write from the user, and there's the ownership concept being called out in the Web 3.0 area. So why the ownership is important? So think about in the Web 2.0 area. So the user actually, even though you generate a lot of content, but you can say you don't own those content. If you read all those terms on YouTube, on Facebook, once you upload to their website, actually user, you kind of granted the permission for those companies to use your content. So user, even though you can create the content, but you don't actually own those content. And also even the users' personal or private information has been monetized by those companies, right? So because of even though that's your personal, for example, browsing history, your shopping history, you actually don't own them because of the Web 2 company. They can actually they collect your data and they monetize on data. So that's Web 2.0. So in Web 3.0, they change the paradigm to say users' data is actually can be owned by the user self. Then why we talk about Web 3.0 right now? Because of the Web 3.0, all those ownership has been built on top of blockchain. It can only be built on top of blockchain to really enable the real ownership of users. So in the then we cover the NFT here. NFT is actually the vehicle for the Web 3.0 area. So previously we talk about the token. We're talking about the cryptocurrency, right? So Bitcoin or Ethereum or other Dogecoin or other coin. So those coins, they are fungible token, which means so your one Bitcoin has no difference with my one Bitcoin. We can exchange that. Everyone still have one Bitcoin because they are fungible. They can just like your cash. So your $100 bill have no difference with the other person's $100 bill. They both worth $100 bill and they interchangeable. So, but the NFT is called a non-fungible token. So it is a kind of token issue on blockchain. So the most popular blockchain to issue NFT is Ethereum. Of course, there are other blockchains that can also support NFT, but the most popular blockchain support NFT is called Ethereum. So because it's non-fungible, which means it's unique. So the uniqueness, every NFT is different. So every NFT different, not just their like picture or other things different. So their underneath representation on the blockchain is different. They have it's a simple concept. Every NFT has a unique token ID associated with it. But every Bitcoin, there's no unique token ID. So that's why those are called a fungible token. But the NFT is non-fungible. You can say every NFT has a unique token ID associated with it. Remember I talked about the blockchain property, right? So those property actually, you can say when we talk, NFT is kind of an application on the blockchain technology. So when we talk about the property of the blockchain, you can say the NFT actually can make good use of those property, like the immutable, transparency, and trackable. So and also standardization. As long as the NFT meets a certain standard, it's making it all composable, and then it can be used in different environments. this is also the open access. This is also important. Why I give you an example. Why? So in the Web2 area, so you have a account in Facebook, you have an account in Google. Those are two different accounts. You can log in. Right now, a lot of other websites support login using your email, login using your Google account, login using your Facebook account. But those your account information, as I said, it's actually owned by those companies. You don't really own those content. So that also those companies, they are not gonna release the info, make it interchangeable, so that every company you have to create a duplicated account everywhere, so that you want to use it. So that's a Web2 area, because of the user don't own those data, and also those data are not in an open standard. So in the Web3 area, so we use the NFT, for example, to represent your account information, and your account information, because of the blockchain itself, as I mentioned, it's open access, and it also is a standard. So everyone can go to all the company, all the application can go to other blockchain to get the same set of the information which represent your identity. So even though you don't have to leak your identity, but you use this identity, you can use it in every application. So in the blockchain world, every user, you can have a wallet. The wallet basically becomes your login ID to all the application in different blockchain, in different application on the same blockchain. So when we talk about the NFT, I give a little bit of history about the NFT. So NFT was started actually a long time ago, even before the Ethereum started. So in 2012, 2017, that was a very early period of NFT. As I mentioned, the non-fungible token, it can be issued on, even it's issued on Bitcoin as well. So in 2014, that one of the first non-fungible token was created on blockchain. And in 2017, that was the first CryptoPunk, which was one of the most famous NFT created on Ethereum. It's like it's the first NFT created on Ethereum. Okay. So from 2017 to 2020, so there are many other NFT were started. For example, CryptoKitty that started in 2017, end of 2017, and OpenSea is one of the is the biggest NFT marketplace right now. So it started in 2017 as well. So other popular NFT project, such as the Decentraland, NBA Top Shot, they all started in 2020. So between 2017 and 2020, there were a few projects started to use the NFT, but still didn't capture a lot of attention, and didn't find many real usage on that. So, but in 2021, that's different. From the beginning of 2021, is a booming of the NFT application. So I don't know if you heard of one of the NFT art piece. You call every day the first 5,000 days. It was sold for like $69 million. So in 2021. So and there are some other popular projects also started in 2021, like the Bored Ape Yacht Club. So so those projects started representing the trend of the NFT, and they all started in last year. And we can in the crypto industry, we believe this year we're gonna see a lot of more other new NFT projects will be started as well. So like you may already heard of like I think Adidas and some other fashion brand, they also issue their NFT. Like I remember Times magazine as well. So they all issue their own NFT since last year. So what happened for NFT next? So there is a little bit too much of the information here. I probably won't cover detail. That's because I was initially give a talk to the crypto people over there. So you can say like there actually will be a lot of other application based on NFT technology will be become more and more popular. So I just I give some of the very easy to understandable use cases about NFT here. For example, like gaming. So when you play game, so right now a lot of game actually are free to play, but there are items in the game. So those can be purchasable, right? So but think about all those items in the game, you can only use it in the one game. So what if you can use your game item from one game to a different game? So and also make use of your items and the items owned by you, which means even though the game may be stopped, but you still own those items, and you may still be able to use it in another game. So though, but right now you of course you can still own the game item, but the game item actually it just actually it's controlled and owned by the game company. So what if the game company they decided to stop the game or change of the parameter in the game, you may actually lose your item, or your item may not be useful anymore. But in the blockchain, since the blockchain and the NFT represent the game item, and the items all stored on the blockchain, in the public blockchain, which is not, it's only controlled by you, it's not controlled by any other, and then you can use it in different application. So that's we already see in the industry, the game using NFT technology already been is a trend right now. But and the second is the ticketing, right? So you can use NFT, and say it's unique, right, for different event, for concert. So instead of buying a physical ticket, you can have an NFT represent the ticket. Then the benefit would be you can collect all those tickets that also are the representation of your participation of different events. Then later on, it could be used to create a fan club, or even like a secondary market that could be there easily, you can easily transferable in the secondary market. And identity is actually I would say right now one of the main usage of the NFT. So on Twitter, they already support your Twitter account using your NFT as your PFP, which is the profile picture. So it's verified. It's the verified NFT on the Ethereum network, and the Twitter you have a special PFP displayed on your Twitter account, which is already been like quite popular in the crypto industry. And also NFT together with the music. So this is actually I use this as an example to convince people why NFT is a big thing. Because think about I don't know for the high school student, you have any experience with listen to music before the streaming and before the digital music. So we used to own the music, you have to buy CD or buy tape. So so those were the main media you can own the music. But now most people like you buy music, you just buy from like from iTunes or from or you don't really need to buy music, you just like streaming the music, right? So however, in this industry, it's still being controlled by a few companies, by the agency. So the musician themselves actually they won't be able to make enough money and to cover to make a living on top of that. I know a few musicians, even though they sold like album for like $1 million or something, they still I mean, like most of the money were made by the distribution channel. So by the way, the NFT it can actually enable all the musician, they can actually get a cut of the music they made, because of they can use a smart contract to code all the royalty into the NFT itself. So NFT can have many different usage. So I personally I believe NFT will be the next big application on the blockchain because it can bridge the real world with the blockchain technology and easily understandable by most people. So right now you can create NFT on Ethereum network and also on other network. So on Ethereum network, you generate NFT. It can be pretty expensive, right? So on other network, it may not be that expensive. You can also try that on the network. Yeah, I think that's pretty much all today for my talk. So if you have other questions, so definitely you can ask any question. Because I only just cover the very basic usage of the blockchain and the NFT. And I didn't go to the deep on how this works and why it works. So if you are interested in those, we can definitely discuss the next few minutes or something. Okay. Any question?
So I have like sorry. Did you want to go first or?
Yeah, so if I'm interested in the NFTs, what further reading would you recommend?
Okay. For the reading for NFT, okay, let me think. NFT itself, as I mentioned, okay. So the concept, I already covered the concept, right? So it's called the non-fungible token, and why it's unique. So if you want to create your own NFT project or do some programming on NFT, so first of all, you have to understand, you have to read about the mastering Ethereum, and so that give you the some of the overview about how the token, how the smart contract works, right? Of course, but if you want to build you want to mint your NFT, there are websites, like you don't really have to and do all the coding to mint your NFT. The website I mentioned is called OpenSea. So OpenSea is the biggest OpenSea is the biggest NFT marketplace that provide the GUI for you to mint your NFT on Ethereum network.
Oh God.
Okay. Any other question?
Yeah, I have a question.
Go ahead. There's a echoing over there.
Yes, sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that. So I wasn't really here for like the first part of this meeting. But I heard that blockchains and like the NFTs like really bad for an environment. So I couldn't understand why.
Sorry, environment. So I didn't hear you clearly about the blockchain and the NFT. What's the question there?
Oh, sorry. So I've heard from places that the NFT is like really bad for the environment. And I'm wondering how and why it would be bad for the environment.
Okay, so to the environment, okay, so it's not like NFT is gonna be bad for the environment. Okay, let's let me go back to a slide. Okay, so for the environment, so people blame the especially Bitcoin, right, about the environment because of a Bitcoin network. In order to secure the Bitcoin network, in order to run the Bitcoin network, Bitcoin, you can think about the blockchain. Each blockchain is a network of different nodes. Okay, there are many different nodes on the network. So in order for people to participate into the Bitcoin network, so you have to run a node, and you have to run a mining software. So the mining software itself has to use a lot of electricity. So that's why people think like to generate the Bitcoin, as I mentioned, each block there will be a certain number of Bitcoin be generated. To generate the Bitcoin, so you have to use a lot of electricity. So electricity, apparently people think to use a lot of electricity that may maybe like consume a lot of gas or other power source to generate the electricity. That could be bad for the environment. But as I said, okay, so there are this is mostly applicable to Bitcoin, because Bitcoin has the most minor participant to the network. So, however, I know many Bitcoin mining farm, they already try to use the clean energy. So like the solar power or like nuclear power or other clean energy to generate the electricity and to mine the Bitcoin. So in this case, I think the entire industry is moving to more clean energy to reduce the carbon footprint to the environment. So it's not really related with the NFT or anything. This basically is it is the fundamental infrastructure to power all the application on the blockchain network. So NFT is just one kind of application.
Thank you.
Also like a quick question. So like, how do you like vision like the future of like blockchain NFT? Like, it's like not so much about like how it's used now, but like how do you envision it'll be used in like the future?
Okay, so in terms of future, of course, I'm working in the crypto industry, right? I strongly believe blockchain technology will disrupt the entire human society. And there are two parts. So the first fundamental part, as I mentioned, the blockchain and the cryptocurrency was initially designed to be electronic payments and also the cash system. So we believe the current global economy has too much liquidity, and the liquidity was created by either central bank or the government. So that caused a lot of inflation, and also especially inflation, and also the price of the assets increased a lot. So if you know, like the inflation actually caused the problem for the society. The rich people get richer, and the poor people get poorer, because the inflation actually increase the price of the asset, and also, but for the normal or poor people, they don't have much asset. They won't be able to benefit from the increase of the liquidity in the entire financial system. So this is one thing. So the second thing is that, okay, so why it's related to blockchain? Sorry, yeah, I didn't mention that. So blockchain itself, so there are cryptocurrency can be created out of the blockchain technology, right? So the cryptocurrency, the number of the cryptocurrency issued on the network is not controlled by any government or any agency, not controlled by any government. It is mostly created by the algorithm, by the code itself. So it is a clear and a transparency system, and there is no hyperinflation added to the cryptocurrency. And by doing that, so the network itself will be able to preserve the value without introduce too much inflation into the system. So this is the one thing. And second, so for the so I didn't get into too much detail about how the smart contract can be used to create a financial application. It is called a DeFi application. It's compared to traditional finance, we call it TradeFi. So DeFi is called decentralized finance. Decentralized finance, think about like you go to bank. So the bank business, most of the business is not just like a saving money and borrow money. It's actually okay. So like in the banking system, right? So if you buy a house, you need to get a mortgage, right? So you need to borrow money. Those are the most of the common function performed by the bank. But in a traditional finance world, even to get a mortgage, it's a really complicated process, and there's a lot of middleman being there, and a lot of complication, and actually in the subprime crisis in the 2008, that's also the banking, investment banking, they actually did a pretty bad job, so that inflated the system and also get a lot of bank and investment bank bankrupt. So in the DeFi world, so when all those banking function can be created by using a decentralized application, finance application. That's why I call it DeFi application. The DeFi application, so all the, as I mentioned in the blockchain world, everything is open source, everything is open code. So people will be able to see clearly what will be those functions will be like. So what would be the, how that works. It's all open source. So which means people believe that you can reduce a lot of human error and also reduce a lot of under the table transaction, because everything is trackable and also immutable on the blockchain and all open source. You can, even though right now some of the DeFi application may get hacked, but those are the price we pay. You know, in a traditional finance world, the hacking happens actually more than that. It's just like being hidden, and people don't know that. In the DeFi world, since everything is transparent, so the middleman, there are not many middlemen, and the transaction fee can be reduced to much lower, so that the user and the consumer can actually benefit from that most. So that's one of the disruptive technology. The blockchain essentially, as a cryptocurrency, can disrupt the entire financial system, which was running for more than a few hundred years. So it's not been disrupted yet. So, and the second, and the NFT as a technology, as I mentioned, so just give you an example, NFT can really give the ownership to the creators. I just use example as a musician, right? So the musician, they made music, they made a song, and they have to sell to the label company, and then also like a lot of channel, they get a lot of card of the music and sold, and but the musicians themselves, they probably only get like 1 or 2% of the card, right? And also the entire process, so it's not streamlined, a lot of manual process, a lot of middleman in between. So by using the blockchain technology, so the musician, they can create their own music as an NFT, and they can charge the royalty on the music sold. So, and everything is transparency. I strongly believe the transparency is the only way to avoid those middlemen or avoid those corruption. So, because everything is clearly coded in the smart contract and then transparent, so that we know clearly how much commission they made by different party, and then all those things is coded, right? So the smart contract, there won't be any dispute, there will be automatically happen. So those are the simple application for the blockchain and the NFT technology that can be used to disrupt the current industry and the current system. Okay, so another question. Is it possible for a few companies have more than 50% hash power or voting power? What happens if so? Okay, so this is also a good question. I think this student, you probably learned already about the blockchain. So the hash power right now, so let's go back to the Bitcoin, right? So the hash power represent how much computing power you can use to calculate the hash in order to mine this block. So it is definitely possible for a few companies. They can create like a cartel or something to control more than 50% of hash power. So in the early days of Bitcoin, but right now, since like every day there's a lot of more mining farm being added into the network and more hashing power being increased. So economy-wise, it's not going to be easy to control more than 50%. But of course, those miners, they can create a cartel, they can control it, they can try to control it so that they will have more than 50% hashing power, and then they can like try to fork the network. It happens before a few times. So on a smaller network, for example, Bitcoin Cash is another blockchain. So and then when there's a hard fork, so that the miner, they're competing for who has the most hashing power, then who will control the network. So the control network doesn't mean like they can manipulate the data on the network. Just mean they can control the network and that goes to the direction that they want to say. For example, they want to change some of the parameter of the network, and some other miner they don't want to change the parameter. So that and the people who create a cartel to change the parameter together, they can try to use the same set of parameter, and eventually they can change the network configuration, right? So that's the way there will be hard fork could be created. So when the hard fork is created for the users of all the transaction on the smaller network, so basically their transaction will be invalid eventually, so that the user may lose their transaction information, but they won't lose anything. They just can go back to the other fork of the network. So a voting power is the same thing. That's why decentralized, when you have more than 50% of voting power, you can also change you can stop the network, but still all the previous transaction is already being immutable. You won't be able to change the transaction. You will be able to stop the network, so the network won't generate a new block. So it's definitely possible. That's why in a current blockchain network, every company is looking for decentralization to get the fully decentralized network. That will be hard to manipulate because of the assumption would be all those miners, they don't know each other. So that it's hard for them to create a cartel or create some union so that they want to control the network. So of course, for any single unit or single institution, they control more than half of the hashing power or the voting power. That's very dangerous to the network.
Cool, thank you. I'm sorry, like cutting you off if anyone has questions, but like I have another meeting at 9 o'clock, so like we might have to end it here. So like if anyone has any other questions, like Leah, do you mind putting your email in the chat? So like maybe people can email you if they have any questions.
Sure, yeah. So my email is leo@harmony.one. So feel free to send me email. I may not respond promptly, but because I don't really check email that much these days. So in the crypto industry, most people use a Discord or Telegram or Twitter to communicate with the people, with the partners. But anyway, so yeah, I check email. If you have other questions, send me the email.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.